Joining me now is Republican Delegate Scott Lingamfelter. Great to have you with us, Scott.
Hey, good morning, John, and congratulations on reconnecting with Nova.
Well,
we're excited about that for you.
That's we appreciate that. And now, Delegate, I've got a couple of things I want to go over. I want to get though right to, I don't know what to call it, Terry McAuliffe's not exactly catching flies with a honey message. I thought his press release on Sunday night, basically chastising the Republicans in the House for not backing his vision of Medicaid expansion, didn't seem to me like it was the Virginia way. It seemed Washingtonian to me. What did you make of that?
Well, you know, obviously, John, he's going to say things that he believes connects with the campaign promises that he made. And let's face it, he won. He won on his message and promised that he would work hard to, get Medicaid expansion, which is really no more than an expansion of Obamacare here in Virginia. And so I don't think any of us are sort of in shock and awe that he would say that. But let me cut right to the chase, because you're on a key point here. And I don't think that Virginians at large, John, understand what's really going on. I mean, a lot of people talk about, quote, Medicaid expansion, and they talk about reaching people who are in need. And a lot of people out there hear that, and they go, well, that's not so bad. I guess that's okay. But what people need to understand is this is a backdoor way to explode the government into the healthcare market. And here's the problem we have in Virginia, and this is the message that we need to get out. In the current Medicaid structure we have in Virginia, forget Obamacare for a minute, currently, what we've had that goes back for many, many decades, John, $3 out of every 10 is wasted. Now, here's the question. Why would you put more raw fuel in a leaky gas can? You wouldn't do it. And so basically what you have is the liberal Democrats want us to layer in hundreds of millions of dollars that they call free money, which is laughable, in the form of Obamacare, which is paid for by China, and all our debt that we are accumulating. Mm-hmm. Why would you even think about dropping another $1 billion on top of a program that's going to waste a third of it? Mm-hmm. And so Republicans here are fighting, John, to look seriously at the current program, because it is so woefully inadequate and broken that it is insanity to expand Obamacare, which I don't support in the first place, but even if I did, it would be a horrible business decision. So I think the governor is in an unenviable place of advocating for an expansion that is doomed to fail.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Scott. Common Sense News Time 822. We're with Delegate Scott Lingamfelter, Republican from the 31st District of Virginia. Now, the argument for expansion, and I've asked the Democrats who have come on, Speaker Howell and the Republicans in the majority, like yourself, have said, well, wait a minute. Let's first go through an audit. Let's spend the money to find out exactly how we get the program to work properly before we expand it. Now, anybody in the right mind would say, well, that makes sense, because why would you put more money in expanding something that's broken, right? It doesn't make any sense at all. Why not just have the audit, find out what the areas are, and then expand it?
Well, and John, here's something that's missing in the whole discussion, I think, and this is why I really appreciate the fact that you're taking a thoughtful approach to trying to get this word out, because it is a complex issue. But here's what I think. I have been a big proponent of audits. I was the guy that carried many of these original ideas for almost a decade until we finally got VDOT audited. So this is not new to me.
Right.
I'm glad to see it continue. But here's the point. I think that when we do that audit, what we are going to discover, and I put parentheses around discover, is exactly what many conservatives know in the first place, which is once you've taken a serious look at the current Medicaid program, it's going to tell you we need a new way. And I can tell you what it's really going to tell you. That new way is not Obamacare. And that's what I'm excited about in particular, is to see that revelation come to fruition. And that will only occur when we seriously do this audit.
Right. And the objective of it is to be able to get to an answer for the people that are uninsured in Virginia. We all realize it's a problem, but to get to an answer that is going to make both financial sense and also be have long-term viability. One of my problems with this, Delegate Lingamfelter, is that to me it's short-term, because what the Democrats are saying is, look, if the federal government cuts off the money, which is inevitable, we've got $18 trillion in debt, it can't go on forever, then we will just abandon the program. Well, then we're back to where we are now. So why would you get involved in something?
When I was working before I connected with your show this morning, I'm actually working on a Facebook post today in which I'm talking about the Republican Party. And we will perish as a party if we don't have leadership. And I would tell you that a key component of that leadership is to have a leadership of ideas. You know, we get wrapped that we're the party of no. Well, there's a lot to be opposed to out there. And so, you know, we should oppose bad things. But in order for us to connect with our conservative base, I believe, Scott Lingamfelter believes, that you have to be a party of ideas. And I'm going to tell you, John, I think we have fallen way short of the mark in articulating the alternative view for the Affordable Care Act, which is now the Unaffordable Care Act. And until we wake up, seize the reins of leadership, and become the party of ideas, that party of Reagan once again, you know how I talked about that when I was running for lieutenant governor, then we will perish. And so one of the things that I intend to devote myself to in the years ahead is how do we reconnect as the party of ideas?
And so how do you think we do that?
Well, I think first we take a serious, no-nonsense look at where we are and understand that we will never become the party of ideas until we absolutely devote ourselves to getting our leadership right in the party. And right now, quite frankly, you know, how many leaders do we have? We don't have a lot of leaders. We have a lot of champions. You know, someone's championing personal rights, and another is championing free market, and another champion, you know, budget and tax reform. But what we need is a leader who will help bring those ideas together and lift them up, like Ronald Reagan did. And that person has not emerged yet. But I think at all levels, at the state level, at the local level, at the national level, we all have to pitch in and begin the process of articulating that vision. And I intend to try to do that.
Well, listen, Delegate Lingamfelter, we appreciate that. Now, here's the reality of it. There's a lot of consternation going on in the Republican Party of Virginia right now. We don't hold any statewide office. We're 0 for 5. If you look at the last number of statewide elections, I don't have to go over the dismal results one after the other, except for 2009. That was the only shining spot. And now we've got this battle inside the GOP that is centered on conventions versus primaries. Do you think that matters, or is that all to do about nothing?
I think it does matter, but if we're not careful, we let that take us away from the real issue that's before us. We're not a party that's struggling because of primaries or conventions. We are a party that's struggling because we are no longer the party of ideas. And I think that we have to be. I mean, that's how George Allen, quite honestly, sees the initiative here in Virginia. He was talking about parole and education reform and less regulation and more opportunities for business, and this connected with the public. And what are we doing today? Well, we talk about those things, but we have to lead with them. We find ourselves too much playing the defensive game as opposed to the offensive game. I will say, John, I do think that we need some reforms, and one of the things that I had hoped to do this year, and frankly, members of my own party short-stopped this, was I believe we need party registration in Virginia. I think we need integrity in our system. I tried to do it, and quite frankly, there were fellow Republicans on the committee of jurisdiction that killed that bill.
Why?
I think it's too bad, because I think we've really missed an opportunity. Where there is party registration, we have seen Republicans enjoy great success.
Well, why was that squashed?
I don't know, John. You know, I have a motto. I've shared it with you before. Life is hard, but when you're stupid, it's really hard.
I can't argue with that. I gotta jot that one down. Life is hard, but when you're stupid, it's really hard. Look, if you had party registration right now, there would be no argument to not have primaries in lieu of conventions, which I'm in favor of. I think everybody knows that. I really believe you can't grow the party when you're selecting candidates in a confined situation and not opening it up. The other thing that party registration would do is, if you look at the state Senate right now, if there were party registration in 2013, for instance, Wayne Coleman would have easily won that seat on the Eastern Shore, and the Republicans would be in control of the Senate right now. What really hurt the Coleman campaign is where the Democrats knew who voted in their primary in June, and they could target those and get them out. The Republicans didn't have that opportunity. Had they had that, they win. So I think it's also an advantage electorally, right?
I agree with that, but I would say that the most important thing, and I've always done primary in my district, but I think it's the integrity of the vote, and I think that's what my bill would have done, would have given our party leaders some confidence that they could have a primary and actually control the process. And I think that the current criticism of the current system by people who feel very strongly we need conventions, quite honestly, is they don't believe that Republicans control the process unless it's by convention. And so what I'm trying to do is give our leaders the kinds of tools they need in order to have a primary system, quite honestly, John, that's disciplined and fair, where Republicans nominate Republicans.
Okay, so that's so logical. For the people that waxed it, what was their reasoning?
Life is hard, but when you're stupid, it's really hard.
We're going to end on that note. We want to thank you for joining us today, Delegate Scott Lingamfelter. Oh, I do have to say one thing before we take off. I had Senator Chap Peterson on a few minutes ago, and he talked about his privacy initiative and said that you were on that committee also.
I am. I'm the chairman of the Committee of Jurisdiction. I am deeply committed to individual liberty and the protection of privacy, and I will go down hard before I let that go down.
All right. Keep fighting the good fight. Common Sense News Time, 8:32. We just heard from Republican delegate from the 31st District, Scott Lingamfelter. He was also a candidate for lieutenant governor in 2012. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.